If you are not comfortable with the idea of failing, then you cannot be an entrepreneur because you will never succeed on every step of entrepreneurship. So I think first being mentally prepared that it's okay to fail, and being mentally prepared as well that not everything will go the way you've planned, and that's okay. And you don't need to have everything figured out from day one. The advice I would give is to be confident in what you want, and honestly to be comfortable in your own skin. So like I said, for me, I'm a person who I really do enjoy working, but nobody should feel pressured to do that.
Amira, welcome on the podcast of Kreator Talks. And it's an honor to have you today with us.
No, it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for having me.
You also are a creator and an influencer. I always said that a creator and an influencer don't need to create content every day, but they influence people to become something better in their life. Do you believe that?
I mean, thank you for saying that. I do hope and strive to be the kind of person where people, can learn something. And if I'm achieving that, then I would be happy to believe that.
Something that I always also think about when we hear the name Amira Sajwani. Did you choose real estate or real estate chose you?
That's a very interesting question. I think real estate chose me. Obviously, with my father's legacy in the market, we were all very passionate from a very young age. What some people don't know actually is I studied construction project management in university, and then I have a master's in finance. So even my degree is based on real estate and construction. But I think definitely it chose me.
If I take you back in history to where you were like a little kid growing up, was this the career you wanted to choose in your life because you saw like your dad, your brothers?
At some point, I think I was very keen on becoming a lawyer. And I remember I went to my father when I was in high school and I said, I think I want to study law. And he looked at me and he's very smart. He didn't say no, but he said, okay, if you can last 2 weeks in DAMAC's legal department, you can study law and see if you like it. And so he sent me there. And a week later, I came and I said, I don't think law is for me. And he started laughing and he goes, yeah, you thought it's what you see on TV, right? Where you're like defending or prosecuting criminals in court and arguing. And it's not like that when you look at corporate law. And I started laughing and I go, yeah. And funnily enough, a few years later, after I graduated and I already started working, and I was talking to the head of our legal department, and he goes, oh yeah, what did you end up studying, etc. And I started telling him this is what I studied. He goes, I remember your father called me and said, I'm sending Amira, do everything you can, drown her with paperwork to make sure that she doesn't want to do this.
She hates it.
And I started laughing and I was like, I'm grateful that he did that in hindsight because it's a great path for being a lawyer and studying law, but definitely real estate's in my blood and it's something I'm very passionate about.
It's in your blood. So, I mean, when you were growing up, seeing your father, the challenges that he went through, everything, was there this passion like, I want to help my father in his business? Or was it just by chance?
So it was a bit of both. We were in the office from a very young age. So from, the age of 12, my father used to take us with him to the office. We would sit, we would learn, we would sit in on his meetings, see what he was doing. So definitely started becoming something that we became passionate about and started understanding from a very young age. And so it was definitely a mix of both.
You shared a very interesting video on Women's Day. And you said, you were upset that sometimes you cannot get your daughters from school. They're 2 years old. I think you have 2 and 4, right? So you were really upset about that. And your dad said something that is really interesting, that when they grow up, when they're at 10 years old, if someone asks them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're going to say, I want to be like mommy. This is very interesting. But when you were their age, who did you want to be like? Who was your role model?
So, of course, I admire both my parents immensely. Both of them were role models in different ways. Now, as a mother, I can see that my mom was the role model of how to be a great mom and how to raise her kids, not just, in terms of well-being and education, but integrity and faith was a big focus in our house as well. And in the business world, my father was my role model. I looked up to him a lot. I always wanted to be like him, to achieve something along the lines of what he achieved. And he focused as well on me quite a bit in terms of my education, making sure I went to a top tier university, making sure that, I graduated valedictorian. And so that was definitely something that I was always striving for.
That's amazing. So today you are the managing director of DAMAC. You are the founder and founder of PRYPCO and co-founder of Amali. Uh, tell me about the journey. Like you started with DAMAC, of course, you became managing director, and then you found that you felt, although you didn't need to, but you felt like I need to create something on my own, and it was PRYPCO and Amali.
For sure, for sure. So I'll start with PRYPCO. For me, as I entered the journey in DAMAC, when I started taking over sales, marketing, and the entire kind of customer journey from a point of initial point up to point of sale, I noticed a lot of gaps in that journey. And I've always been very passionate about technology, the fintech sector, the prop tech sector, and achieving something in that arena. And so when I started mapping out a lot of these industry gaps, I noticed that there was an opportunity. In fact, we are going to be the first platform in the MENA region that starts tokenization this week. And so that was how I started PRYPCO initially. I was very interested in fractional ownership of real estate because I could see that the market is so wide, but there is a gap for people who aren't able to enter that entry point of the market, but are very interested in still investing and being part of the journey and having exposure to real estate. And so my journey started by wanting to do tokenization. At the time, it was a bit early, not just locally but globally for the infrastructure and governance of tokenization. And so we started with mortgages and lending, and we grew very quickly into other verticals. Today, we do mortgages. We building a B2B platform for the brokers, and we go live with tokenization this week as well, which is something we're very excited about. And so it was more something that I saw was a gap and an opportunity in the market that I wanted to fill, as well as just honestly my passion for tech and what I believe the future of tech in this region especially is going to be over the next 10 to 15 years.
So, I mean, if I was like a real estate illiterate and you want to explain to me PRYPCO, like so I can use it, I want to download the apps, what would you say something in a simple word like this is PRYPCO, this is why you need it, and make me download the app?
That's a
and
great
use it?
question. So our two things that are consumer products are mortgages. So today we're the second largest mortgage brokers in town. So our team and our platform helps you pick the best mortgage that is suited for you based on the rates and the amount of loan that you want to take from a bank. And obviously we do that through our automated journey and checking your credit score, et cetera, et cetera. If you have not identified a property that you want to buy yet, we also connect you with a broker in the market that is specialized in the areas that you're seeking a property in. And so we really help consumers end to end from a perspective of the lending, as well as finding the right property that is good for them. And then our second product, which we're launching this week, is tokenization. Tokenization, for those who might not be familiar with the term, is the ability to buy a fraction of the property and have the rights like a full owner. So if there's a property for 1 million dirhams, tokenization will allow that to split into chunks as little as 500 to 2,000 dirhams, and you can buy a fraction. So you can buy for 2,000 dirhams, you can buy for 500,000, you can buy for 100,000, doesn't matter. You can choose, and you own that percentage of the property. What is special about tokenization as well is that it is at a title deed level. So globally and locally, there's many companies and platforms that have done fractional ownership through SPVs. So you put a property in a special vehicle, which is a company, and then you're selling technically the shares of the company as ownership. But tokenization is at a title deed level. So we're connected into the Dubai Land Department directly, and you get a fraction of that title deed that is of that property. And we manage the property, we rent it, and you get the rents as a percentage of how much you own on a monthly basis. And then when it's sold, you get the capital.
So you're helping out the people that want to own a home. You're connecting them to the right people, the mortgages, whatever they need, but also you're looking after the people that want to invest, but they don't have like this great amount of money. That's so amazing. And it's coming from Amira Sajwani, so it's a really credible app to work with. I also, I mean, checking Amali, the luxury living of Amali, it's something amazing. I went on the Instagram app. I checked those photos. Tell me more about Amali. What made you also create Amali?
So that's a great question. I think it was a similar thought process of a segment of the market that we wanted to focus on, which was the ultra premium, ultra luxury segment. Obviously, that's a segment that has grown a lot in Dubai over the last 5 years, and not only from a demand perspective, but from the projects that have been coming into that segment and what they represent. And so it was a very unique opportunity to enter that. Our first project was in the World Islands. We launched a island with 24 ultra luxury villas, starting from 50 million dirhams all the way to 250 million dirhams. We launched it last April. We sold out very quickly, and it's going to be, I think, one of the very unique projects in town that is reached by both and has a very unique offering in terms of being very exclusive and very high end. And so that was also an amazing experience. It took so much traction and attention in the market for being something so special and so different
It
than what
is
people are
actually,
used to here.
I mean, so far you've done a lot in your life, in your career, mashallah. Yani. What would be the project that you want to do in the future? Is there more that you still want to, explore and do?
Of course, there's a lot more that I want to explore, that I want to do. I wouldn't divulge everything here so that I can keep you guys engaged with me on my entire journey. But I think, like most entrepreneurs, at some point it doesn't become about a specific goal or a specific project. It becomes about the journey, about building something that can leave behind a legacy and an imprint and make a difference. And so definitely, as we go and we see more opportunities come up and more gaps in the market, whether from a tech perspective or from a development perspective or something totally new in the future, it's definitely something that I jump in head first and see how I can take advantage of not just opportunity, but to create something that stands out.
You want to leave an imprint, you want to leave an influence. And also, what's interesting about you is not only you founding those companies and working as a managing director at DAMAC, but also you went on Shark Tank to help entrepreneurs and startups and gave your advice. And I saw like a couple of clips, and you are really passionate about helping others in their businesses. This experience on Shark Tank, what did it give you, and how did it change you?
So it was a phenomenal experience with great fellow judges that we filmed with and that we've kind of done the program with. I think for me, the fact that I was able to contribute not only to the people I invested in, but even to the ecosystem of learning. I think the main goal of a program like Shark Tank is actually to introduce into the generic market the concepts of how startups work, how companies work, and also how investors think and how entrepreneurs think and what they look for in companies. And I hope that it contributed to at least a few individuals to be able to learn what they could and understand what investors are looking for so that they could start up their own businesses. And, it's actually a funny story because when we filmed for the first season, I had just had my second child. And so I had a newborn at home and I had a 1.5-year-old or 2-year-old at the time, toddler, who of course was very jealous that there's a new child. And so I got a call from a dear friend saying, Shark Tank, and they want you to be a judge, and what do you think? And at the time, I had never watched Shark Tank, and so I didn't know what it was.
Even
the US version.
Oh.
I'm not a person who watches too much TV. Like,
I mean, you don't have time.
I mean, I
Two
don't
kids,
have time,
three-
but also
three-
I'll be very honest. If I'm watching TV, I tend to go old school. Like I watch shows like Friends and stuff that's more background.
So it's like you're taking a break.
I'm
from,
taking a break.
I just need to watch my sitcom, and that's it.
And so I remember I said, "What's Shark Tank?" And my friend goes, "You don't know what Shark Tank is? Watch it tonight and get back to me." And I watched it that night and I fell in love with the concept. I was like, this is such an amazing concept, And the next day I called back and I said, listen, I would love to do this, but I don't think it's feasible because the filming hours were quite intense and over a period of a couple of weeks. And I said, I have a newborn and this is just not feasible for me at the time. And later the next day, my father calls me and he goes, Amor, I heard they want you to be on this. I remember he said, برنامج الهوامير. هوامير, which is hamur. I said, Baba, برنامج هوامير? شنو يعني? And he goes, ما الهوامير. I said, أي هامور? شو تقول أنت? And then it clicked for me. And I said, you mean Shark Tank? And he goes, hey, ما الهوامير. I'm like, okay, I get what you mean. And he convinced me and he said, look, I know that you're overwhelmed with your kids at the moment and you have a newborn, but this is such a great opportunity, and an opportunity also for you as an Emirati woman to, be a role model for others. And so I did it, and I couldn't be more glad that I did. I think it was a phenomenal experience that I would happily kind of do again and again.
Are we going to see you on another
So
season?
season 3 just started airing, actually.
Okay.
We've come a long way. Season 3 just started airing, and we have some interesting stuff in the season that hopefully people will tune in for.
You will not give us any.
There's no cheat codes. There's no cheat codes. And it's funny because sometimes we watch it at home. My husband obviously wants to watch it, and sometimes I'm on my phone and he looks at me and goes, "You're not paying attention." I said, "I was there. I know how this ends," and it's so odd to see that, that being there versus what it looks like on TV and to others. And so it was a very interesting experience.
What did you learn from Shark Tank, from the people that, from the entrepreneurs that are going into the market today?
So I think one thing I learned is that there are a lot of people who want to do great things and have certain right ingredients to do it. I think one thing I learned is that also not to take it for granted that I grew up in a very entrepreneurial home where some things were second nature to me, and that might not be the case for everyone. And so it was very interesting to see where I could contribute in the future to individual entrepreneurs and their journeys and where they could use that help, because that became something that was quite clear to me in terms of the people that came and the things that were said. And I also think that the ecosystem in the region is just starting, and there's a massive, massive future and potential for people in this region and for the ideas and opportunities that are coming up.
So you said something really interesting, by the way. Coming from a privileged family, there are two things that usually happens. First, there's a perception about you. Oh, Amira, she has everything she needs. She doesn't need to, she has the contacts, she's PR, everything. And the second thing is that, why does she need to work? She could just lay down at home and relax and everything will be. Why did you, and you debunked both, and I'll say why. It's just because of what I read and saw about you in the media and everything that you do. It's because you proved that you are a great managing director at DAMAC. You proved that you found it too. First, you found a problem in the market and you solved it with an app that is very interesting today for everyone who wants to invest or even to get a mortgage for a house. And I really like the real estate now is really growing with the prices. So what is the perception? Was it a perception about you ever that people say, oh, Amira's khalas, she comes from a privileged family, she doesn't need anything? Was ever that a challenge in your life?
Look, it was not a challenge that I faced openly, but definitely it was something that was, obviously there. I get that question a lot from my close friends as well,
We're close friends now.
I mean, of course, but, people that I grew up with, my childhood friends, and they ask me and they go, mashallah, you're doing so much and you don't need to. Like, why do you do this, especially now that you have 2 young kids? And I got married, not super early, relatively early. I got married. Me and my husband were 22. We met in university in London. And, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just not one of those people. I have total respect for women who choose to stay home and raise their kids. In fact, I think that's more difficult. Last week I was sick and I had to stay home for 3 days, and my kids were sick, so they had to stay home from school for 3 days. And I honestly called one of my very close friends and I said, hats off to you, because the office is much less stressful than this.
100%.
And so I have total respect for that. Obviously, my mom was a full-time mom and she did a great job with us. But I think growing up and seeing my father and the passion that he had or has rubbed off on us in such a way that we're all as siblings very ambitious and very keen on doing something. I think that for me, I'm also a person who, if I'm kind of not doing much, I get bored very quickly. I need to keep myself energized intellectually and be doing new things. A lot of people tell me, they said, you had more than enough to manage in DAMAC, but you chose to start two new companies.
Exactly.
And for
go on
me,
Shark Tank.
for sure. And I think I'm always looking for a challenge, and I'm always looking for what's next that can be interesting and I can learn more new things as well as apply new skills. And so I think that's just the way I am. And I think growing up in a house where my father built an empire from nothing, seeing that and seeing he loves it. He enjoys it to no extent. And I think that just rubbed off on us very early in life.
Your dad is always trying to find a new challenge also
My
as well.
father is always looking for what is newer, what is bigger, what is next. And, sometimes we tell him, we say, Baba, slow down. And he goes, I'll slow down when I'm in the grave. And we're like, okay, Allah يطول بعمرك. But
I wanted to take you back also to those moments with your dad. And you said something interesting about on Women's Day. And I think it's something that a lot of women face today. Like they feel guilty about, I have to work-life balance. So what was one advice that your dad gave you and it still resonates with you to today?
So I think one advice that he gave me, and it was in the video that I posted, I think on Mother's Day or Women's Day, was honestly when I had my second child, I had a hard time balancing everything, balancing work and my mother responsibilities, as well as honestly the guilt. I think most women, including myself, it's not actually the balancing, it's the guilt that we can't handle because we always feel like it's not enough. And I remember that day, my daughter came to me crying, saying, Mommy, you don't pick me from school. And, and that just, it really, I had just had my other kid. And so I was postpartum and it really kind of tugged at my heart. And I went to my father and I told him, I said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do it all. I feel guilty. And I think that advice he gave me where he said, listen, at the end of the day, you have two daughters. And, I don't have any sisters. I have three brothers. So I didn't grow up in a house of girls. Yes. But he said, you have two daughters and you want them to see by example that it's okay for them to chase their dreams one day and to follow their hearts and to do what they want to do in life. So if you're not going to chase your dreams because of them, what's the example you're going to set for them? And in 20 years, when they ask you, Mommy, you had such big aspirations, why didn't you go for it? Are you going to tell them it was your fault? Yeah. And that I just kind of looked at him and I go, I mean, no, I don't want it to be their fault.
It actually gave me goosebumps. It's amazing.
And honestly, and he told me, he said, trust me, when your daughters are older, you're setting an example. You don't have sons that they're just going to look up to their dad. You have daughters, you're setting an example at home for them. You're showing them that it's okay to also follow your dreams. And he goes, as they get older, they'll get busier in life. He goes, as your kids grow older, they're going to be in school till 3 p.m. and then they're going to have an activity. And when they start ignoring you when they're 12 and saying, we want to see our friends instead, you're going to look back and say, I wish I didn't give up, what I wanted to do because I felt guilty. And again, I think that, those who decide to do that and focus on their children, on the contrary, I have huge respect for that.
Yes.
But it's just not something that would be... it wouldn't be enough for me because I get so eager to apply my skills in different ways. And what I do is I try to make up for it on holidays. So I take my kids on holiday quite a bit. And then it's the small things that matter. I remember after speaking to my dad, I went home and I spoke to my daughter. And mashallah, she's 4 now. This was almost a year ago. But she's quite mature. And I sat her down and I said, Ghalia Baba, I know that you're upset that mommy can't pick you every day like some of the other mommies. But, mommy works. And I said, she goes, but mommy, why you have to work? And I go, mommy has to work because, your grandfather has such a big company and so many people work for him. And if we don't work hard and we don't grow it, then, some of those people, they might not have jobs. And mommy has a big responsibility in the company and in life. And so you want mommy to work hard, right? Because one day you want to work hard. And she goes, yeah. And I said, let's make a deal. And I said, once a week, every single week, I will pick you up. So on Fridays, and actually that's why before this I said, what time are we going to finish? Because I want to see if I could pick her up today. So on Fridays, usually I pick her up. And then I looked at her and I said, Ghalia Baba, if there's any time, any day that your heart really feels like, mommy, I need my mommy to pick me up today, that day or the night before, you just say, mommy, today's a day where I need you to pick me up. And whatever mommy has, mommy will cancel to pick you up because you are mommy's priority. And I think that really resonated with her because it was something that, and that happens, once every couple of weeks, she goes, Mommy, today I really want you to pick me up. And genuinely, I cancel whatever I have and it goes into my calendar and it goes pick up Ghalia from school. And I think that made a big difference because she realized that, okay, my mommy's busy, but whenever I need her, I'm the priority.
She's gonna be there for me.
She's there. And so I think those things make a big difference for my guilt, because I know that my kid feels and knows that no, mommy's there. Like even if she has other things going on, she's there. And I think that helps a lot.
What's one advice that you would give your daughters today that that will help them in their life?
The one advice I would give them would be to have confidence in themselves and to follow life for what they want out of life, not for what they think is expected out of them. I think that is very important for young girls and young women nowadays, because I think today in the age of social media and everything that's going on, there's a lot of pressure that comes. And so the advice I would give is to be confident in what you want, and honestly to be comfortable in your own skin. So like I said, for me, I'm a person who I really do enjoy working, but nobody should feel pressured to do that.
So if your daughters chose to stay at home, that's fine.
That's totally fine. I think that that's their decision. And whatever they choose to do, whether it's to stay at home or to go down the business route or to become a professional, I think as long as it makes them happy, that's what matters. And that's the advice I would give them.
Do you think they have real estate blood? Do they play Monopoly? What do they do?
I think they definitely have an entrepreneurial blood in them. Nice. My older one, Ghalia, she goes, the other day my father called me laughing and he goes, your daughter's in our house and she has her pretend phone and she's walking around going, I told you to get that done yesterday. No, not today. And my dad just couldn't stop laughing. And I said, I guess she sees me walking around the house on the phone. And so, they imitate at this age. But I think definitely, I would hope that they're passionate about something. It's something me and my husband discuss a lot, saying, would you want them to specifically go down a certain route? And I say, not necessarily, but I hope that they're passionate for something. It doesn't need to be necessarily entrepreneurship or something in the work industry, but something that ignites a light in them to achieve something.
Do you think you want them to go into DAMAC or PRYPCO?
I think that in 20 years, we'll need to see what is even the state of the universe and AI and what we're doing as human beings to see what they'd go down the route of.
So many awards and coverage, and you've got so many accolades in your career. You are Forbes 30 under 30. You are on the cover of Forbes as well. And you have a lot of awards. Which one is the closest to your heart?
Alhamdulillah, we're very blessed to be recognized. But I think for me, what gives me bigger, let's say, self-satisfaction or pleasure is actually when I see certain targets or achievements across my different businesses being hit. I think seeing that, seeing one of my projects sell out immediately, I think that's more exciting for me than seeing myself on the cover of a magazine. I think all of that attention comes as a result of that. If I was to choose, I think it was a very proud moment for me to be on Forbes 30 under 30, especially on my own merit due to my startup. So that was very a proud moment for me. And it's funny because I'm always on. I get asked to speak at things or podcasts or journal kind of articles, etc. And I very rarely put on makeup. And so my mom is always lecturing me, saying, you're on the front page of this and you're on this and you're on this show and the least you can do is put on a little makeup. And I always laugh and I'm like, it is what it is, Mom.
I kept thinking yesterday when you're coming, like I went on I stalked you a little bit and I found something really interesting. Okay, so yesterday was a joyful day. My daughter Amira graduated from the London School of Economics with a master's degree in finance. Was your father always there for you at moments that big moments in your life, especially that your father is someone who's always busy and always, trying to, manage this huge empire like DAMAC. So was he always there?
That's a very easy question. He was always there, in the past and currently. What might shock a few people is that family was very important and is a very important aspect of my father and my parents' lives. So when we were kids, till today, actually, my father's home for lunch every single day. Every single day he's home for lunch. Every weekend we spend together. In fact, a lot of my friends tell me, they go, we don't know many people that spend so much time with their family as much as you guys. Because when I say together, I mean my parents, me, my husband, my kids, my older brother, his wife, his kids, and my two younger brothers. In the year, we travel in the summer together. We travel in the winter together. We travel in the spring together. Our trips, usually 9 out of 10, are full family trips. And so we spend a lot of time together. And it's funny that you're referring to that picture, because I was saying earlier, my father was very focused on my education when I was in my kind of teen years. And I remember I changed schools when I was in the 9th grade, 10th grade. And that was in 2009. And it was, a busy time in the market in Dubai at that time. And I had switched schools. And in my new school, my father wanted me to be in the advanced placement class. I remember in advanced math. And they said, no, she can't be in that because she just switched schools and we don't know her background and the mathematical abilities. And actually, math was always my strongest suit. And my father came to my school, which was in Mirdif, and we live in Palm Jumeirah. He came to my school every day for 3 weeks, sitting on the principal's head every single day until she agreed. And she told him, all right, we're going to give her last year's final exam next week. And if she passes it, we'll take her to the next level. And he goes, done. I remember we walked out of the school and I looked at him and I said, how did you just commit to that? How do you think I'm going to pass a final exam, which is next week, and I don't even know what the topics are? He goes, don't worry, I just messaged my assistant. I'm going to get you a tutor. You're going to do this. And he was always there for me. And it's funny you're referring to that picture, because I did my bachelor's in London and I did my master's right after. So I was there for 5 years. And my bachelor's, obviously I graduated in 2016, and then I did my master's right after. So that picture's from 2017. Yes. And I remember we were in the US and he looked at me, he goes, when's your graduation date? When are we going to London? And I looked at him and I said, Baba, I just did a graduation last year for my bachelor's, which was a big graduation in UCL in London. I said, I'm not bothered to attend this graduation. They can send me the degree in the mail. Like, no, khalas, I just did that, yani. And he looked at me, he goes, no way. This is a proud moment for me. Like, I'm going to be there and I want to take a picture with my daughter in her graduation gown from LSE. And I started laughing. I'm like, okay, but I don't care. And he goes, but I care. And so we all flew in for that graduation. And it's so funny because anytime we meet anybody, the first thing he says, he goes, my daughter Amira, she graduated from LSE. And he has one of these t-shirts that says LSE Dad.
Wow.
And so that for me is a no-brainer. Till today, if he doesn't see my kids for 3-4 days, he'll call me upset, being like, your kids haven't come for 3 days. And I'm like, yeah, Papa, they have swimming and they have Arabic and they have gymnastics. And he goes, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, they're coming now. So my dad is a very hands-on father. I have a youngest brother who's 17. So there's a large age gap, but still he's very hands-on with him. He's very family focused.
That's amazing. With everything that he has to do, he's still like, and I think you're taking on the same path, just like your father with this.
Alhamdulillah.
So like family is important, work is important, and you're trying to be there for your family, but also for entrepreneurs coming up. And this is something that I wanted to ask you about. What are challenges that you faced in entrepreneurship and in your career that you could give an advice to people who are first trying to get into business? Like, this is a question that everyone, I think, when they're trying or thinking about a business, they always think about this first step to take it. How do they get, starting? How do they take that first step?
I think anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur has to first be very comfortable with failing.
Nice.
So if you are not comfortable with the idea of failing, then you cannot be an entrepreneur, because you will never succeed on every step of entrepreneurship. So I think first, being mentally prepared that it's okay to fail, and being mentally prepared as well that not everything will go the way you've planned, and that's okay. And you don't need to have everything figured out from day one. Just start and things will come up, and you might pivot and you might find yourself somewhere totally different. But if you're somebody who's very rigid in the way you're thinking of this has to go a certain way and I need to succeed. And if I don't succeed in 1 year, then it's not worth it. Then it's not right for you, because you need to be okay and flexible in entrepreneurship to understand, the market or the industry, to change, to pivot, to fail and to learn and to get up. And I think that's something my dad really taught us from a young age.
Did you ever reach to a point where you said, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore?
Of course, every couple of weeks.
Oh my God. I didn't expect that.
I mean, obviously I'm joking, but yeah, quite often, especially being a woman, I won't lie. I'm sure my brother is less so. For me, oftentimes I'll look at my husband and I go, why am I doing this? I'm so tired and some things are not going the way I want and I'm frustrated and,
And then you wake up the next day.
And then I wake up the next day and I'm bored and I'm like, okay, let's go back to it because I can't just let it be.
Have you ever failed in your
many times? I think if you haven't failed as an entrepreneur, then you're not a successful entrepreneur. There's been projects I've tried that haven't worked out and we've changed them and pivoted and then the next one is successful. So I think that's totally normal. I think it's very, very okay and acceptable to fail at certain things or try projects, because if you don't try something that's different, then anyway, you don't have a unique idea. And if you're going to try 7 things that are different, 2 have to fail.
You absolutely right, because he said something that, Einstein once said, it's fine to fail. He said, like, only crazy people fail and just keep doing the same thing over and over again, not try to change it and expect a different result. So if you fail, you just need to change and then you'll find a different result. And failing, I think failing is part of success, especially in a world like Dubai. You need to be out there. You need to try. You need to find your chances in this country. Amira, it was a big pleasure having you today on my podcast. I wanted to chat with you much more, but I know you need to get your daughter because you promised her, and we will not make you not get her today.
The pleasure is absolutely mine. Thank you for having me.